Hey you guys, it's Amy Gretchen. As promised, I am back to show you how I use this Silhouette Studio cut file in my December daily album. So I actually used this on day 2 in my 2018 album. So definitely check out that process video if you have not yet seen it and you can see how I use this file. So I specifically wanted to show you how I use this file because I changed a couple things. So this is the actual file. I know it's probably hard to see. I'm going to change a couple things so you guys can see it a little bit easier. But this is just the outline of the cut file, and I made a backing to it, and then I actually welded the star and the trunk onto the actual tree so it would be one piece. So I just wanted to show you how I do that today. So the first thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about is an SVG file. So an SVG file cannot be opened by every piece of software, but it is a specific file that can be opened in Adobe Illustrator, and it can be opened in the Silhouette Designer Edition, but the free version of the Silhouette Studio, you cannot open it up. So you're going to want to buy a PDF for that. And luckily they have both for this file, and you can easily make a cut file out of the PDF. So that's really the difference, is the PDF is just going to be the black outline, and then the cut file is going to be the actual cut file. So it's saving you a step, but it's really only a step. I guess if it's maybe a really complicated design, then maybe it'd be great to have the cut file, but it's really only 1 or 2 steps. And you're totally in luck because the PDF file is usually cheaper. So this file was actually, I think the PDF is 74 cents and the SVG is maybe like $1.10 or something like that. So it's really affordable regardless. So anyways, let's just jump in and get started. So the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to show you how to change a PDF version into a cut file. But because I don't have the PDF version, I'm going to have to, kind of manipulate it for you. So I've clicked on this file and I'm going to hit Alt or Option depending on machine you're using. And I'm just going to hold down and then I'm going to drag with my mouse, and this is allowing me to create a duplicate, and then I'm just going to set that aside, and then I'm going to make sure that that is highlighted. I'm going to come over to this icon that looks like a paint palette and click on it, and then I'm just going to fill it with black. So now you can see the file a lot easier. So this is what it actually looks like. I just want you to have that in mind in case you're having a hard time seeing what I'm doing. So now we're going to create a cut file. This actually does have a very faint red line. So it does have a cut file on there, but we're going to create it just pretending that this is a PDF. So I'm going to come over to the panel in this icon. It's the little trace button, but I think it looks like a butterfly, and I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to click on select trace area, and I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to trace the area that I want to cut. And you can see that it highlights everything in yellow that it's going to outline or it's going to cut around. And then I think that that looks really good. If you want to manipulate it some, you can change it and make it a little bit thicker. I kind of liked where it was there. And now I'm just going to hit trace. And you can see now I've got this darker red line. And maybe I will get a little bit closer so you can actually see that there's a darker red line. Now if I click on it and pull the file to the side, you can see now I've created another cut file. So I've got this cut file and then I have another cut file. I'm going to controller command minus, which is going to just pull me out, and I'm just going to move this file off to the side because I do not need it. Now, one thing that I am going to do, just move this one over as well. One thing that I am going to do before I go any further is I want to change the size of this file because this is almost a square and I wanted it to be almost 8 inches. I was really, considering how wide I want it to be because I knew that this was going to be cut in half. So when it's cut in half, I think it's about 4 inches. No, it's closer to 3 inches, excuse me. So I'm just going to highlight this file and then I'm going to come over to my width and my height, and I want to make sure that they're not connected because I don't want this to be square. I want it to I'm going to elongate it, and I am going to change the look of this tree, but that's fine. That's kind of the way that I wanted it. So I'm highlighting the width, and I'm doing 6.5 inches by 7.9 inches. So it's almost 8 inches tall. And now you can see that it's longer than it is wide. So it's not quite as stubby as that tree is, which I think that tree is super cute how it is. All right, so I'm going to close out this trace panel because we do not need it. And I'm also going to change the background here just to help us to a 12 by 12. And that's going to make it so we can see this just a little bit better here. And I'm going to come up. All right, so two things that are really obvious with this file right now that I need to change is I need this to all be one file. So you can see right here that there's a space. So this star is going to cut separately. And right here, let me get a little bit closer for you guys. Right here, there's a space, and I want to connect that as well. So I need to move this up, and then I need to move the star down and connect them together. So the first thing that I need to do is I need to release the compound paths here. So I'm going to click on this file, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to come down to release compound paths. And now you can see that I have all these pieces that are outlined in the light gray. That means if I click on any one item, I'm just selecting the one item, and then I can go ahead and delete it. And you can see that I've now deleted that piece of cut file. So that's going to help us in just a minute. I'm going to hit Control Command Z to undo that. But right now what I want to do is I want to be able to move this entire star down and connect these files together. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to highlight all of these pieces here. Oh, but first I want to show you guys something, because the first time I did it, this is what happened. Okay, so this was the cut file that I created, right? Let's go over to the original file. This is the SVG file that came. And like I said, I know that it's hard to see. But I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to come down and release the compound paths. Now, you can see when I release the compound paths of this one, remember we saw all those little square rectangles and boxes around each piece. And I'm not getting that here. And when I select it, I'm still selecting the entire tree. So something's going on, right? If that happens to you, I want you to go to the object panel, or excuse me, yep, object, and then go to ungroup. And now you can see that I have all of these pieces in their own rectangle. So if that happens to you, just make sure to look for the object and then to ungroup, because that's probably the issue. That took me a minute to figure out. All right, I actually don't need this file anymore. So I am just going to go ahead and delete that whole thing just to kind of get it out of our way. Now I'm going to move over, and we are going to move and weld this tree, or excuse me, the star onto the tree. So I'm going to select the tree, or excuse me, the star, and I want to make sure that I'm selecting the star, but also the pieces in the middle, because now they're all separate. If I just move the outside, then it's not going to move the inside pieces. And I'm going to, you could drag it. I'm going to actually just use my arrow on my keyboard. And I want to drag it until both of these pieces right here, this piece and this piece, are connected to the tree. So I want both pieces connected because I want it to be really sturdy. So you can see that it's both connected there. And then I'm going to come over here to the panel where I've got these shapes. Click on that, and I'm going to modify it by hitting the weld. Oh, I made a mistake there, and that's because I welded the star together, because that is what I had selected. So I'm going to Control Command Z to undo that. And what I want to select here is I want to select the tree, and I want to select the star. So you want to see this rectangle around the star, and then you want to see the rectangle around the tree. So those are the only two things that you want to see selected. And then you hit weld, and now you can see that it's welded together. Now, the star is right there on the edge. And if that bothers you, you could go ahead, and I'm going to hit Control Command Z again. You can go ahead and just select the star again, and you can move it over so that it's more centered. If you like that a little bit better, go ahead and select the tree and the star, weld them together, and now you can see that the star is a little bit more centered. I didn't mind having it off to the side. I thought it added a little quirkiness, and so I just went ahead and kept mine off to the side. Now we're going to come down to the bottom. I'm hitting this space key so I can get the little hand and I can move it easier. Now I'm going to highlight the trunk, and I am going to, just with my arrow key, move it up until both of these lines intersect with the tree. And I'm going to make sure the trunk and the tree are now selected, and I'm going to go ahead and hit weld. And now you can see that it has opened it up, so when it cuts it, it's not going to cut these into two separate pieces. So that's the first thing that I want to do here. Now that I have, this is my outline file, I want to go ahead and group all of this together. And once I group it together, you can see now that I can move it all together and it's not going to be these individual little cut pieces. Now I want to hold down my Alter option, and I'm going to drag it because I want to make a copy of this file, just because I want to have it on hand. Now that I went to the work to create it, I want to make sure I have it. So now we're going to go ahead and we are going to send it to the Silhouette. And for this one, I used a textured cardstock. It was the Basil Orange Peel. And so I'm going to set mine to cardstock textured heavy 80 pound. And that actually worked really well. And then I'm going to come down and send it. Now it's not finding my Silhouette because it's not hooked up. But if yours is hooked up, it'll find it, and then just click on send. And once you've done that, I'm going to come back to the design. And now what I want to do is take this file and manipulate it a little bit more. So now we want to work on the background. So let me just Control+ to kind of zoom in. And I just want to work on the background here. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to highlight this, and then we're going to ungroup, because we want all the little individual pieces here. Because if you recall, we did not cut these in the background. We had them one solid color so that they would show through from the outline, right? So we need to go through and click on all these little pieces and delete them. And there may be a quicker way of doing this, but I do not know of one. So I'm just going to go through and I'm going to do each of them individual, and it's just the scallops that we want to get rid of. We want to keep the triangles because we want those spaces to be in the tree. So we are just going to go ahead and I'm just going to work until I get all of these done. And you can see that when I highlight this area in the trunk, because I want to do the trunk also, it's not letting me highlight it. So I'm going to click on it and release the compound paths, and then I can highlight it, the middle, and then just delete that there. And then I'm going to come up, and I need to do the star also. And this one I might be able to select more, but I'm not going to. All right, so I have got now the background image. You can see, whoops, I went ahead and accidentally moved that file. The first thing that I want you to do is highlight everything, go to Object and Group, so that you don't accidentally move anything around, because you want to match this file exactly. So now that if you move this around, now you can see that it comes together. So I'm just gonna zoom in just a little bit here so you can get a closer look at having the one piece. So now you're going to cut this out of your pattern paper. But before you do that, if you have a pattern paper that's 12 of 12, then go ahead and just cut it out. I was actually using a piece of paper that was a 6x8, and I did that because it came from Ali Edwards' kit last year, her December Daily kit, and it was a 6x8. So I wanted to make this piece of paper a 6x8. So I just clicked on the paper here at the top and then changed it to a 6x8. And you can see that the file actually does not fit on this 6x8 piece of paper. But as you recall, when I did my process video, remember how the green paper was like cut right here? And that's because I went ahead and just hung this tree over the edge and cut this file, knowing that I was going to cut this file down the middle anyway, and then it wouldn't matter if I was missing out on some of these cut files. So I didn't actually need the whole width, but I definitely needed the height. Well, I didn't even really need the star, but it is nice to have like structure. I actually cut this out of 2 pieces of pattern paper and ended up using them both just to keep it a little more sturdy. So I would suggest either cutting it out of cardstock or cutting it out of another piece of pattern paper, just so you have then the top file and then 2 of the base, just so it's a little bit sturdier. So now you can go ahead and do the same thing. When you send it to the Silhouette, you can see that it's going to start the cut right there, which is exactly what you want to do. It's not going to, cut on to your mat or anything like that. And I actually did textured cardstock because the pattern paper was pretty thick. So I just went ahead and did that. So you can just send it to your Silhouette and then you guys are done. So now you've got all your pieces, and then definitely go ahead and save this work that you did so that you can use it next time you want to use this file. Anyway, you guys, thank you so much. If you have any questions about anything that I did, definitely ask me and I will answer them. Hopefully I have the ability to do so. Thank you guys for being here again, and we will catch you in the next one. Bye.